Kia ora, ko Dwayne tōku ingoa, no Christchurch Okotipuna, ki te noho ao ki Tamariki Makarau. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā katoa. Ko tu ao whare papa ti mauna, ko moto eka ti awa, ko kaipoki ti waka, ko Ngāti Pakeha te iwi, ko moto eke ahau, ko Newport tuku whānau, ko Jenny tuku wahine, ko Joseph Takao Tama, ko Dwayne tuku ingoa, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou. So I'm Dwayne, and I come from a small country town in the top of the South Island called Motu Eka, and one of the famous locations is Te Ao Whare Papa, Mount Arthur. Motu Eka River is the river I identify with because at the age of 19 I became a Christian, and in that river I was water baptized. I'm married to Jenny. She is a gynecologist and obstetrician, and I have one son, Joseph, and he is currently studying engineering. When I started this course, I had no idea what I was in for. In the last few months has been quite a steep learning curve. To help explain my journey, I wish to refer to the canoe metaphor I began to develop in Learning and Teaching 1. As I mentioned in one of my assignments, it was just not any canoe, but rather an ocean-going canoe, because these types of canoes are designed to cross large bodies of water. And the large body of water I identified with was the Pacific Ocean. Canoe metaphor underscores the principle of a journey, or the idea of learning during the process. Journeys are generally made up of three parts: the beginning, the middle, and the end. I connect the start of my journey across the Pacific Ocean to my understanding of education before enrolling in Massey, and how these views were formed in a tacit way, basically my experiences as a student. For example, everybody was the same. There was no consideration given to the differences between Māori, Pacific Island groups, or Pākehā, nor to social economic status. Teachers were the authority. They were not to be questioned. There was little or no thinking around the importance of relationship with whānau and their significance to the student's educational success. Any form of failure was the student's fault. These are the types of mindsets that I had. Now, the middle part of the journey epitomizes the process of learning. This is when my long-held views are challenged by those in the know, lecturers, principals, teachers, and relevant authors. Though I am only a few months into my journey, I now have a more holistic view of education. For example, I've moved on from focusing on a conga getting the right answer to explaining how they got their answer. And TalkMoose has been a wonderful addition to my kitty to do this. I have loved using them and the rich discussions they elicit from their conga. I now see the important role families and whānau play in education, especially for our Māori and Pacifica students. The whānau are essential to the students' success. I've changed from a one-size-fits-all teaching approach to embracing a variety of pedagogies that meet the needs of a conga. I now see that a conga are the centre of teaching, and they are to dominate the classroom discussion. So these are some of the changes that I have undergone through the middle stages of the journey. Now, the end of the journey or reaching the destination is, in my view, harder to define, as I do not believe teachers ever reach the point where they have nothing more to learn. Education continues to change rapidly, and there will always be new skills and pedagogies to acquire and knowledge to implement. For example, our last practicum, Practicum 2, was all remote learning. And through this process, I learned how to use new technologies I had not used before, shared whiteboards and other communication technologies. And furthermore, I increased my understanding of culturally responsive teaching. Why? Because my learning group had a mixture of cultures. I had a Mongolian student, I had an Indian student, I had Filipino students. In fact, this process of continued learning is the reason why I chose to sail the Pacific Ocean. It is the largest and deepest body of water in the oceanic divisions, and therefore provides a lot of opportunities to grow and develop. Finally, although I could highlight a number of other things about my journey, there is one skill that I've developed during the year that stands head and shoulders above the rest, and that is critical reflection. Whether it was feedback on an assignment, feedback from a lesson plan, conversations with my AT, or classroom discussions. The ability to reflect on what worked and didn't work, and the reasons why paved the way for improvement. As I continue my journey into teaching, I see critical reflection essential for continued improvement and becoming the best teacher that I can possibly be. I chose this scenario as the Te Tiriti of Waitangi has been identified as the standard I needed to work on or focus on from my recent AT's report. In talking to this scenario, I believe it will help me develop a better understanding of the standard and its connection to the school and the learning environment. The starting point for developing authentic relationships with a Akonga is, I believe, seeking to understand who our Akonga are, and this can be done by asking questions. But I wish to point out here, in regards to Māori culture, a 6-page type survey is not a good starting point for either Akonga or their whānau. Te reo is and was an oral-based language, so meeting them in person and asking questions is the preferred form of communication. I would ask Akonga about their life experiences, about their marae, how they greet at home, how they greet on the marae, what they know about their iwi, their hapu, their canoe, their grandma, their grandfather, their mihi, their pepeha, and their whakapapa. In developing authentic partnerships with whānau, our teaching team would let them know the value and interest we have in learning more about another culture, and that we want to know and build a genuine and authentic partnership with them. We would then ask them, what is the best way to make this work? See, this type of question, I believe, shows that we are seeking to build a genuine and authentic partnership on their terms and not on ours, and therefore it honours them as the rangatira. Furthermore, we would express the value of these types of partnerships by stating that the greatest progress and the highest potential is realised whakamana for their Akonga when it involves teacher, parents, student and community working together and collaborating together rather than just teacher-student learning. And one of the most important considerations is the teaching team having open and honest discussions to identify their own bias, assumptions and beliefs, and be willing to have these challenged. The teaching team needs to be aware of the inherent connection between language and culture. Language is embedded in culture and expresses culture. Therefore, te reo and tikanga Māori needs to be an important part of the learning environment. This honours the tita riti of Waitangi. The teaching team needs to be aware to use Māori knowledge to inform decisions rather than trying to align into Māori knowledge after the decision has already been made. Another cultural consideration the teaching team needs to be aware of is that Māori children do better when their education values reflect their identity, culture and language. Whānau have a central role in building Māori children's sense of identity, understanding of the world and their place within it. The teaching team needs to finally be aware that Māori whānau value educational experiences that validate their children's Māori identities. Authentic, respectful and truthful relationships are trusting relationships between two parties, and they take time. To help build these sorts of relationships, our team would do the following: invest time in getting to know the akonga and their whānau, be interested in their lives and involved in their community. We would show respect to Māori, their heritage, language, identity and culture. We would meet the whānau before the official start of classes, find out what they would like to see in the learning environment. We would initiate conversations with whānau about the interests, aspirations and skills of their akonga. Continue to have regular meetings with whānau to develop and strengthen relationships, exchange information, share kai. As a teaching team, we wouldn't impose any expectations or demands on whānau. The focus is on getting to know them. Mana Orete focuses on working together in equality, and rangatira means allowing whānau to take the lead in this relationship. As a team, we would see the importance of honouring and respecting them and giving them the mantle, because they are, of the expert in their culture. As a team, we would prioritise connecting with the local community members and community organisations to support akonga and invite them into the learning environment. We would involve the whānau in discussing children's progress and setting goals, seeking whānau voices and perspectives in portfolios, and be guided by Māori in developing teaching and learning programs and resources for Māori. Obviously, I could say a lot more about this scenario, but time does not permit. I wish to close this presentation by saying thank you for listening, and thank you for an incredible year of learning. Ngā mihi nui.